and welcome to the all-new, all-different #1 Comics Podcast, episode number 43. I am Dan. That is Bob. Say hello, Bob.
Hello, Bob.
We are a weekly comic book podcast where each episode we take a look at a brand new, first issue, newly released comic book, break down the story and art, and let you know if we think that you should move on to issue number 2 or not. We also talk a little bit of comic book and related news, as well as what's new in comic book shops this and next week. And this week, we will be taking a deep dive into the all-new #1.
From Marvel, written by Dan Slott, Spider-Boy #1.
That's right, Spider-Boy #1. Now, Bob, this is, of course, to be, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but this is Spider-Boy Volume 2 #1. Of course, not the Robin Spider-Man mashup that was Spider-Boy from the from the 90s.
I don't think anybody will get that confused.
Well, just in case.
That's true.
This is Bailey Briggs Spider-Boy, not your grandpa's Spider-Boy. So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. And we are back with episode number 43 of the all-new, all-different #1 Comics Podcast. Bob, it's post-Halloween, post-spooky time. We're into the month of November, and there's no news. There's not really any news. You and I did just watch a trailer.
Right.
We watched the trailer for Marvel Studios Echo, and I don't know, do you have any thoughts? Is there anything you want to point out?
Well, my only thought, like I told you off air, they just seem like they're trying to make Echo Electra. You know, without the mysticism of the hand and you know, bringing the dead back to life and all that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I do think it's cool, like the Kingpin element of it. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's definitely cool. And I mean, we can all agree Vincent D'Onofrio is killing it as Wilson Fisk.
Dude, he is badass. I love. Obviously, you guys can go out there and find this on YouTube or whatever, but make sure you check it out. But yeah, it's very. He's intense. Like, I mean, it's great to see him just beat the shit out of that guy.
Yeah.
And,
just slowly, methodically.
But
just in control the entire time.
Oh yeah, always. But yeah, he really nails the part, nails the look. Everything about him is great. I really liked it a lot. I think it looks cool. I think it looks exciting. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm not, sadly, I hate to say this, but I'm not up to date on Loki. I still have only watched the first 2 episodes of this current season. And I hear that the latest episode, the 4, kind of opens up all kind of craziness or changes stuff or whatever.
Yesterday's episode was the penultimate episode. So,
okay.
I mean, you only have to wait 1 more week and then you can stream the entire series.
And I can just watch it all. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sad that I'm behind on that, but I will be catching up very, very soon. Just life happens. But
there are a lot of rumors I'm hearing as to what Loki or Tom Hiddleston's new role in the MCU is going to be, because he is rumored to be in these next 2 Avengers movies.
Okay, well, hey, that's news. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm all for bringing Loki back.
Yeah, Loki's obviously a great character. Really, really good in all of the movies. Great in his own show. All of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bob, I figured we'd kind of do something we've done a couple of times before, since there's not really any news.
Right.
Just maybe touch on the trending 20 from Key Collector.
Okay.
Discuss what's on there for the reasons that it's on there, all that stuff. But coming in at the top, we have Venom Lethal Protector #4, first appearance of Scream, first cameo appearance of Agony, first cameo appearance of Lasher. I've never been able to say that character's name, so
Phage.
Phage, there we go.
Phage.
Okay. And Riot.
Hopefully you can say Riot.
Yeah, I can say Riot sometimes. Yeah, this one's on there. It's saying that in April of this year, Juno Temple's casting in Venom 3 will likely cause speculation that she will portray Scream, but with Shriek already having appeared in Venom 2, Sony might not use the character with too similar of a name. That's really the only news that's on this book.
Yeah, and it seems like every time I check, either in the Hot 10 or the Trending 20, one of the Lethal Protectors, usually either number 1 or number 4, are on that. And I'm sure most people have 20 copies of that.
Oh yeah, that's one you don't want to pass up. Probably too late now. I mean, you can still get them for cheap, but yeah, not like dollar bin books like they used to be. But next up we have Batman, Sword of Azrael 1, first appearance of Azrael, prelude to Nightfall. Again, no real reason for this. I don't know I haven't been keeping up with Batman, so I don't know if anything's going on with Azrael right now.
I can't think of a reason why this book would, all of a sudden explode.
Yeah, me either. We've got West Coast Avengers 45. Of course, that great colorless Vision cover there. Behold the Vision, colorless Vision. This is the first appearance of Vision, colorless, after being dismantled and reassembled without programming. And in October of last year, rumor that the TV series in the works with the title Vision Quest was confirmed by Deadline. I had not heard that news or remembered that news, so I don't know if that's still a thing.
I mean, I didn't know it was confirmed. I just always heard that they had a plan for White Vision, considering at the end of WandaVision, nothing really happened to him. He just flew off.
Yeah.
So he's still kicking in the MCU, so I guess they're going to do something with him, which I'm fine with because I think Paul Bettany does such a great job in that role.
Again, talk about perfect casting. He's great in that. So next up, we've got Captain Britain #1.
Mm-hmm.
The first appearance of Captain Britain, the first cameo appearance of Roma, the debut of the Sword of Might. This says a bonus item included inside the issue of a Captain Britain mask.
So make sure if you have your Captain Britain #1, you open it up and make sure that mask is in there.
Yes,
because there is a big value decline if you don't have the mask.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is saying on the high end, this book is selling for $350. Right. I think that's lowballing it a little bit. I think it sells for a little more than that, but I don't know. Sometimes on Key Collector, the problem is this is what it sold for at the time before they published it, and then they publish it, and then the book increases in value. So
the only thing, and I did have a copy of this book years ago. Mm-hmm. This is one of those magazine-sized books.
Yes.
Which, of course, CGC doesn't make any kind of holder or anything for magazine-sized books. So that's the only issue I had. A beautiful book.
Yeah.
Plus it came with the bonus mask.
Ah, nice.
Who didn't want a Captain Britain mask as a kid?
Did you take the mask out and wear it?
I did not. Because I think my head's a little too big for the mask.
Lost your opportunity there. Next up is G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, issue number 22. First appearance of Duke. First appearance of Roadblock. Again, I don't know what the reasoning for this is. But
I think I know a reason why this book may be, going up. Mm-hmm. So apparently, with this new Skybound / Image Energon universe,
yes,
that Void Rivals kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I think the beginning of next year, they said they are supposed to do G.I. Joe books in the Energon universe.
Okay. And
I believe one focuses on Duke, either focuses on him or the team of Joes with Duke.
Okay.
So I believe that's the reason.
So it's maybe a good time to hop in.
Right.
While this is still low.
Right. Yeah. Good spec book.
Before it's like $100 book or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Good call. Bob, next up on the list is a book that we talked about. I did a bonus episode on, and you picked up a copy.
On your recommendation.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for my foil convention exclusives to come in as well.
Oh, nice.
So it's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, a pretty brand new book here. It says a quaint storybook town of anthropomorphic animals is terrorized by a serial killer. Then it says proceed with caution. When paying overcover price for the issue, it's unclear if there is legitimate demand related to low supply or if sellers are holding back inventory. Check the shelves at your local comic book shop. I can tell you this. I think by the time that you went and got your copy, that was all, like, at our local shop.
Well, actually, I accidentally picked up 2 copies.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So I have 2 copies of it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, this one is... I would say that it's probably got a pretty lowish print run. I mean, it's IDW, so I don't think it's insanely low, but I don't think there's a lot out there. But I mean, I see what they're saying. You know, definitely with any of this stuff, check your local shops around you before you go paying online prices. But
we all remember what happened with what was it? That variant for Death Metal Robin King.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Enough said. Next up is Excalibur Special Edition. This is, of course, from Marvel Comics in 1988. First team appearance of Excalibur with Captain Britain, Megan, I don't know how to say that, Rachel Summers as Phoenix, Kitty Pryde, Lockheed, and Nightcrawler. There are 2 first print versions. The version pictured is more scarce and doesn't display a price on the cover. The other shows a price of $3.25. Everything $3.50 and above are later printings. Again, there's a 250% increase in copies sold this week, but no real reason why.
So how many people do you think actually looked at the one without the price and put it down just because it didn't have a price?
Oh yeah, probably a lot. That's me. Anytime something doesn't have a price, I'm out.
Not knowing that it would be that much more scarce.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, good setup, I guess. But
yeah.
Next up, we have another weird one here. This is, Marvel Team Up issue 14 from 2006. This has a guest appearance of Invincible in the Marvel Universe. During a battle, Invincible is thrown out of his universe and into the Marvel Universe. And the showrunner for Invincible Season 2 provided a vague answer to the question of whether or not a Spider-Man crossover in the TV series will happen in the TV series. It's unlikely, but I don't know. I'm unsure of what the hell this says. This is a very
I mean, I know it's an animated show, so stuff like that is different because you don't have to get, the person who actually voices Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
Yep.
But I just don't see this happening.
No, God no. I don't think there's any opportunity for this to happen. That would be very odd if it did. But even with that, you have to think too. How does that generate to the inflation of a price of a book? Just because they had appeared together in this book, that people are going to want it. I don't know. It just doesn't translate to a book sale to
a lot of people like Invincible.
I mean, sure, but I don't know. I'm not.
And I mean, it is one of Marvel's flagship characters.
Well, yeah, definitely. Next one is a personal favorite of mine. I love this book. I have a lot of copies. I love the MTV, Liquid Television series from the, I guess, mid-90s, early 90s. This is from Image Comics 93, the Max #1, of course, the Sam Keith book. First appearance of the Max. The on-sale date of March 9th, 1993, 2 weeks prior to the release of Darker Image #1. And a Max movie is rumored to be in development at Paramount, led by Channing Tatum, with writers attached. This is old news, but I didn't know this news. Did you?
I'm going to say, first off, any movie with Channing Tatum attached in the lead, I'm going to take with a gigantic grain of salt.
Okay.
Because how long was he the lead to play Gambit?
Oh, forever. For a long time.
That ended up just being in developmental hell.
Yeah, it just...
So, until I actually hear something concrete, I'm going to take it with a big old grain of salt.
Yeah, I think this news was from like 2019 or something, though. So, obviously nothing's happened with it, but it's back on here for some reason. I'm still not sure why, and it actually has not translated to any inflated sales, so I don't know. Next up is Daredevil 270, the first appearance of Blackheart, son of Mephisto. Blackheart, a very, very cool character. A cool Daredevil cover, everything. It's got a lot going for it. It's still on the high end, like maybe like under a $50 book. Definitely a good time to buy into that.
Blackheart, who's playing a big role in Monsters Unleashed.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we've got Astonishing Tales 25, the first appearance of Deathlock, Luther Manning, the first appearance of Major Riker, the first published artwork for Marvel by George Perez, an interior two-page backup story. With the prior publication of this issue, George Perez was published in the science fiction magazine Hot Stuff. Stuff with one F, not two F, so you can't say stuff. But yeah, Deathlock. I don't know about you. I've got a couple of copies of this. I do have a CGC graded 9.8, and I can't remember. I'd have to dig it out, but I believe that it is a Witness George Perez signature too.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's one of those books. Of course, you see it everywhere. It used to be like a mini key, a book you grab for like $15, $20.
Right.
Now it's gone up a lot from there, but it's one of those books, like, it looks so great in person. It looks so great in a slab and everything. It's just a really cool cover. Really, really nice book. I like that one a lot. Next up is a newer book, Marvel in this year. This is Amazing Spider-Man 31, with the first appearance of Mary Jane as Jackpot, and the first appearance of somebody who we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode, Madame Monstrosity. Also, the marriage of Janice Lincoln and Randy Robertson. I don't know. There's stuff happening with Jackpot. There's a Jackpot solo series coming up. And of course, Madame Monstrosity is in the book we're talking about this week. So definitely two characters that are in the comic book zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. Next up, speaking of comic book zeitgeist, Bob, here's one that I talked about the week of release. And I was like, hey, get your copies of the first Helverine. And I can't say I was laughed at, but definitely people are like, we don't need more of this shit. Here it is on the trending 20. It's they're at least they're saying here it's a $12 book now. So that's Wolverine 36, first appearance of Helverine. Very cool. I love that cover. I think it's iconic. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it is such a cool cover.
And speaking of cool covers, next up, Marvel Comics Presents issue 72. Course. First ongoing
Very
Weapon
iconic
X.
cover.
Yeah, Weapon X stories begin. The origin of Wolverine and Weapon X begins and continues through issue 84. Just an amazing cover. Bob, I've got that great Sabrina the Teenage Witch homage cover to it up there.
Yeah.
That's one of those metal covers too. That's a fun book. But next up is Bob. I don't know how many copies of this you have.
Another iconic cover.
Okay, this is Incredible Hulk 340. The iconic Todd McFarlane cover, of course. Wolverine and...
That has been homaged over and over and over. I think this might be the...
Yeah, this or ASM 300.
I was going to say, what do you think is homaged more, this or ASM 300?
God, I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like I started seeing ASM 300 homages before I started seeing homages for this. So I think that one had like the upper hand on coming,
But the past 10 years, you got to admit.
Oh, yeah. Every book has a cover of this.
Exactly. I mean, Spawn definitely. Spawn has one. I think, almost every publisher has an homage cover to this.
Definitely. And this one's trending high, very high. I remember buying in, again, talk about like, $10, $15, $20 keys. Like, that used to be this all day. You could pick these up. Now they're saying on the high end 215. Like that's pretty high. That's good. Next up, a book for Bob, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics in 1983. The first comic book appearance of Jabba the Hutt as he appears in the film. And a previous version of the character was used in Star Wars 2 before the movie design of Jabba the Hutt had been revealed. I remember we talked about that at some point for something, and we looked that up, and it was a very interesting depiction.
It was.
Yeah, very different.
It was. A whole lot different than the final product.
Yeah. And speaking of books that we're going to talk about this week, next up is Spider-Man 7, the first appearance of Spider-Boy. Yeah, this is the first appearance of Spider-Boy. Bob, still a $20 key on here.
I was going to say, the way this book is going, this may be the next, I don't want to say Ultimate Fallout 4, but
I'm with you. I don't think it'll quite reach those levels. I don't think, but hell,
it could reach about half of it, especially now that Ultimate Fallout 4 is starting to come down to earth.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, this is, I mean, hey, I'm behind this all day. This is very cool. Next up is Captain America 210, Marvel Comics. 110, Marvel Comics in 1969. First appearance of Madam Hydra, who later becomes Viper. First appearance of Rick Jones as the fourth Bucky. Bob, they've got a $500 price tag on this. So.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Very cool cover too. You got gigantic Hulk just smashing through a wall. You've got Captain America coming at him with a shield and everything. Just some great artwork on that cover there. Next up is a book that I finally just picked up a copy of at that last convention I went to. Wolverine issue number 88.
Another iconic cover.
Oh yeah, first battle of Wolverine versus Deadpool. Now this is something I'm surprised. Maybe in a few years or something we'll start to see it, but this is like ripe for like homages. Like this looks.
It is.
Like, can you imagine just like any book where you have like two characters who fight against one another? This could be the cover.
See, and I mean it's not even they only use two colors for both characters.
Yeah. You got your.
I mean, it's not
red
like
and black
with
a blue background.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like they're fully covered like Wolverine's in a yellow or brown outfit, and Deadpool. Well, of course, this was pre funny Deadpool.
Yeah,
this was serious Deadpool.
Yes.
This was back when he was a copy and paste of Deathstroke.
Yep. I'd love to see that. I think if I could request to anybody, hey, do an homage of like a classic cover or something, I'd say let's try this one out. I'd love to see what that looks like with some of their characters. And then our last book, I don't even know if this is out yet, Bob. This might be. Oh, I believe this came out this past week, I think.
Right.
We've got from Udon Street Fighter Omega number 1, a 1 per store thank you variant. I don't know. It was probably hard to get. So.
It's a variant.
Yeah, sure. And that's all. So that's the list there. Again, not much comic news to talk about. So I figured why the hell not talk about their trending 20 there. Bob, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about what's new in shops this week. And we are back with episode number 43 of the all-new, all-different #1 Comics Podcast. Bob, let's hit him with what's new at comic book shops this week. Of course, like you always say, there's probably a larger list out there, but this is the list.
You're not stealing my thunder.
No, not me, Bob. From Marvel Comics, we've got It's Jeff, the Jeffverse, #1. Very, very cool Jeff the Land Shark book. This is different than that last Jeff book that came out. This is like they're like one shots, I think. So I don't think we can call them volumes or anything, but it's a one shot, a collection of stories from the digital series. Next up, we've got White Widow #1, and this one I haven't read it yet, but I'm really excited to read it. It looks really cool. It's got an introduction of something. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a thing or a person or what, but again, I haven't read it yet. And then we've got Ultimate Universe #1, carrying on the Ultimate Universe here. The first appearance of Maystorm, who has the ability to affect the weather. Bob, is it Storm's great grand storm? I don't know.
Either that or it's May Parker mixed with Storm.
Yeah, it's their name has Storm and they can affect the weather. So I haven't read this yet either. I'm excited to. The obviously that 4-part Ultimate Invasion was really, really good. So
right, yeah, I am excited to read the reintroduction of the Ultimate Universe.
You and me both. Can't wait to get on that. Next up from Blaze Comics, we've got Almost Dead #1. Now, I've heard from a mutual friend, Bob, that this book was terrible. And actually, it was really funny because he came up to me and he said, do you guys ever just cover really, really bad books on the podcast?
And
I said, well, yeah, I tried to be nice. I said, well, unfortunately, it has happened a couple of times. And he said, well, if you ever feel like doing one that's like the worst comic you've ever read, grab this one. And I said, sold, but we've already got our book for this week. But the solicit for this one says the synopsis says, a woman awakens from an accident into a world changed by a viral pandemic that turned people into monsters, and must rely on her special survival skills to reunite with her loved ones across the country. Yeah, I mean, it already sounds sanitized as hell and boring.
So it's The Walking Dead meets Taken.
Yeah, and
she's got a special set of skills
exactly.
which makes her dangerous for the monsters.
It's like everything. It's like Bird Box. It's like Walking Dead. It's all of that post-apocalyptic.
That was a deep cut.
Yeah. What was the other one? Now I can't think of it. I don't know. I'll think of it eventually. But yeah.
Well, there's A Quiet Place.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. A Quiet Place. Like, yeah, World War Z.
From what I hear, that's actually a good movie. So
I watched the first one. It wasn't bad. It was okay. Next up from Image Comics, we've got Blood Commandment #1. This is written by the dude that did Something Epic, Something's Epic or Something Epic, yeah. Really, really cool book there. We've also got Transformers #1 with its second printing. So, Bob, I know you picked that up. From Boom Studios, we got a really cool book, The Space Between. I did read this one, and I had the creator on the show a little while ago, the writer on the show, and that's Corinna Becco. I'm sure I'm pronouncing her name completely wrong, but as I usually do. But she told me how to pronounce it when I had her on, but of course I forget everything. But yeah, this one was really, really cool, and what she told me about this book was like it's a generation ship, out in space and everything, and it's kind of like these people go through different relationships and they have repercussions like later on down the line. So this first issue focuses on like two people from different classes, and they get together and like have kids and stuff, and like what happens like later on through the generations because of that and everything. It's a really cool sounding book.
So to put it in I can't remember exactly what they call it. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this from one of my good friends who it just escapes me what it's called. But basically, to put it in video game terms, it's a I wish I could remember the exact term. It's basically a good-bad classification choice system where, certain choices you make throughout the game determines if you're a good guy or you get tempted to go to the dark side, basically.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's just like you get to see what happens like kind of play out throughout the series. So really cool. It's only a 4-part mini, so it's not a big, investment or anything, but there's a lot of payoff. The first issue, like I said, was really, really good. So definitely check that out if you guys haven't. Next up from DC Comics, we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom special #1, of course, a one-shot prelude to the upcoming film that everyone is oh so excited about because it's going to have big, huge repercussions on the DC cinematic universe, and James Gunn has already said that this really ties into everything. It's got no, I'm just joking. It means absolutely nothing. So
I was going to say, I know you can't see it, but could you feel all the sarcasm rolling off Dan at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what's the point? You know, who cares? Whatever. That's all I can say. Great endorsement for this book. Next up, we have Batman, Catwoman, The Gotham War, Scorched Earth, #1 crossover event conclusion. That's all I'll say.
Thank goodness.
Crossover event with Batman. Who cares? From Ani Press, we have a new book, and this one has a very interesting title. It is Faceless and the Family. Again, like I said, that's a new #1 over at Ani. Not something that we get a lot of lately. This one is a nomad, simply known as Faceless, and a group of fellow wanderers attempt to survive in a wasteland of their home planet. This one's got some really, really cool, interesting artwork on the inside. I really kind of dig the artwork here. It looks really cool. So I don't know if the story's not good, at least you got the artwork to go on. But yeah, it looks great. Next up from Dark Horse Comics, we've got Star Wars Hyperspace Stories #10 with the first team appearance of Bad Batch in story. So if you're a big Star Wars specker, great book to pick up, I would assume.
Yes. Really enjoyed the Bad Batch TV series.
Yeah, you and a lot of people do. Yeah, it's pretty acclaimed there. You never really hear anything bad about the Bad Batch.
You don't, no pun intended.
Yeah. We've also got another book from Dark Horse, and this one I have read also. This is the one that I'm doing the bonus episode on this weekend as well, but it's Canary #1. It's in a post-Gold Rush Western U.S., an evil form of an old mine suspected of being haunted begins to drive citizens to murder. This is a crazy book, Bob. If you've not read it, I don't know if you picked it up or not. No, okay, yeah, it's a crazy book. I could see.
So it's the premise is a haunted mine.
Yes, but the cool thing about it is, well, #1, Scott Snyder's writing it. #2, the illustration is by Dan Panosian, so already top notch.
Win-win there.
Yeah, Dan Panosian can really do no wrong. Like, I almost want to pick up his Red Sonja books, just because they probably look amazing, but I'd never read them. So, yeah, really, really cool artwork there. From AWA Upshot, again, another publisher we don't get to really talk about a lot, is Red Light #1. This one sounds insane. This is an AI sex worker befriends an orphaned child who comes into her care, sending them on a mission to escape the red light district, only to find themselves steeped into the mystery behind the woman's creation. So crazy sounding book there.
That does sound very interesting.
Yeah, it sounds insane. Bob, here's a book that I don't know if it was like this whenever you went into our local comic book shop. Again, that being if you're in Jacksonville, Florida, Gotham City Limit. Go check them out. They had plenty of copies of this book, but there was like a stack. And when I tell you a stack, I mean there was like 100 books on the table for this next one from Vault Comics, Unnatural Order #1. They were selling it at a discount and everything. So
I did notice that he had a good amount of them. I did notice that.
Yeah, and the solicit for this one reads, after the fall of the Brightons, the release of a captive known as the Druid brought about an age of horrors that can only be rectified by a prisoner who knows his secret. That is not how the world is supposed to be. That this is not how the world is supposed to be. Sorry. So, yeah.
So it's the Matrix.
Oh, no. I hope not. And rounding this off for new books this week, from Scout Comics, we got A Haunting on Mars, issue #1. Bob, this one is a special team is sent to a dead colony on the wasteland of Mars to uncover secrets that causes their sanity to unravel. What was that movie that came out like in the late 90s where they were like going to Mars and like, I don't know, Ice Cube or somebody was in it? Kind of sounds like that, crossed with like Event Horizon or something.
Oh, you talking about the one with Gary Sinise?
Was it Gary Sinise?
Where they find out that humans are the descendants of aliens, or
yeah, it was something like that.
Oh, Yeah, it did have Gary Sinise in it. Oh man, I think it was called Mission to Mars.
Something like that.
I think if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. Either way, make sure you guys hit up your local Blockbuster Entertainment and pick up a copy of that Mars story.
I mean, you'd have to go to, what is it? Is it Seattle?
I don't know.
Is it somewhere in Washington?
I thought it was Alaska, but maybe not.
I think I think there's also one in Alaska too.
Oh, okay.
But I want to say there's one in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Hit them up. See if they've got a copy for you. We'll be right back after this break. And we are back with episode number 43 of the all-new, all-different number one comics podcast to talk about Marvel Comics' new number one, Spider-Boy, issue number 1. That's right, Spider-Boy. Look, the solicit's only going to take a second to read because all it says is Secrets of Spider-Boy revealed, spinning out of the pages of Dan Slott and Mark Bagley's monumental, and then it's it. So, that's
okay.
all it says. I think it's probably
monumental. What?
Yeah,
what?
I don't know.
What?
It's some kind of glitch there, but that's okay. I'm gonna go into my synopsis, which is way longer.
I was gonna say, hopefully, it's longer than that.
I don't know, Bob. By the time I get halfway through, you're probably not gonna say hopefully. Yeah, this is my recap of the book here, what I read. So, Spider-Boy opens with Spider-Man and Spider-Boy fighting Gutterball. Sorry, I had to look at my notes there for a second because it auto-corrected it to Butterball. So I was like, I didn't write that. A villain with
fought a turd?
I guess so. I mean, it's timely. But a villain with a bowling ball head at a bowling alley. As Spider-Boy takes him out, the crowd around him acts afraid of him. And we see a Daily Bugle headline calling him a monster, him being Spider-Boy. Sorry if I typed that weird. Spider-Man then goes to the Daily Bugle office to ask them to print something nice about Spider-Boy. We then see Madam M, a.k.a. Madam Monstrosity, at the farm, a.k.a. the secret lab of her and her horrifying humanimals. I love that, humanimals. We see the new headline, she sees the new headline in the paper announcing a special award for Spider-Boy and plans to send one of her creations to battle him. Just as Bailey, a.k.a. Spider-Boy, is set to receive his award, someone comes rushing at him to attack him. We then see more of Spider-Boy's origin when Madam M was experimenting on him in her lab. We then get to see Spider-Boy's villain, Helifino, a elephant-rhino hybrid. As the two fight, Spider-Boy convinces Helifino that he doesn't have to listen to Madam M and can make his choices on his own, so he leaves. And then we get a backup story. It takes place on 6th Avenue on Thanksgiving Day Parade. Bailey and his friend Christina watch the parade from the rooftops and run into Squirrel Girl, until they notice Balloon Man, a villain who released toxic gases through various balloons. They all fight until Spider-Boy and Squirrel Girl see that Balloon Man is using Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons as his army, and that ends the book there. Let's talk about the creative team really quick. And of course, like I said, this has like a little backup story there. It's like a 10-page, so I think that's supposed to justify the $6 cover price. You're getting like basically 30 pages altogether. So, I guess there's 40, but I don't know how much of it is ads. But this one, like Bob said, written by Dan Slott. Dan Slott is... Dude, Dan Slott... There's like a couple of people in comics where if you had to like...
go-to.
Yeah, if you had to go through and like tell their backstory, tell everything they worked on and all that, it's not going to happen. It's almost like... I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. It's not like... It's pretty much like a step down from being like, okay, well, Stan Lee did this. Like, Dan Slott has done a lot. A lot. Dan Slott...
Just think Spider-Man in the past, 10 years?
Yeah.
And Dan Slott's name's going to come up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Dan Slott and Bendis are like two people. There's no way to tell their backstory or talk about them. But yeah, Dan Slott worked on Amazing Spider-Man for 177 issues, worked on Fantastic Four, worked on The Amazing Spider-Man, worked on Superior Spider-Man, worked on Avengers The Initiative, She-Hulk, Mighty Avengers, worked on Looney Tunes, worked on Tony Stark, Iron Man, Silver Surfer, She-Hulk, The Astonishing Spider-Man, Silver Surfer with Mike Allred, one of my favorite books, Marvel Comics Presents, Spider-Man. He worked on some kind of Pokemon book. He worked on the Ren and Stimpy show book, like back from Marvel in the early 90s.
Wow.
He did some work over at DC. He did Batman Adventures. He did Empire for Marvel. He did Marvel. He did the Thing miniseries from 2005. Did the original Ghost Rider from 92 to 94. Look, again, I could go on and on forever. There's it doesn't end. So I'm going to stop at this point. But that's your writer. The artist of the first story here, the solo run, Paco Medina, I guess is the name I'll go with. Paco Medina.
Yeah.
And he worked on New X-Men, on Deadpool, on Fantastic Four, on Nova, on Ultimate Comics X-Men, Legendary Star-Lord, US Avengers, Suicide Squad, New Warriors, Contest of Champions, The Avengers, Marvel Team Up, Venom, New Avengers, What If, Miles Morales, the list goes on and on and on. So he's done quite a bit too. And then for our backup story, Balloonacy. I love the title of that, Bob.
Balloonacy.
Yeah. Written by Dan Slott, so we don't have to go over his credits again. But the illustration was by Ty Templeton. So Ty Templeton, really, really great illustrator, worked on Batman and Robin Adventures, Batman, The Adventures Continue, Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet, Batman 66, Justice League Unlimited, Batman Gotham Adventures, Marvel Universe, Ultimate Spider-Man, Batman Adventures, Justice League International, Batman Adventures Secret Origins, The Flash, Superman, Batman Magazine, The Avengers United They Stand, Batman The Adventures Continue Season 3, Who's Who in the DC Universe, and again, the list goes on and on and on. So, worked on a whole lot there. Bob, let's talk about this book.
Let's.
Yeah, time to shut up and start talking about the book. As I always say.
I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners who are saying that right now.
They're like, please shut up and talk about the book. Jesus Christ. So what about this story, Bob? What about the beats of this story? Again, I think it's kind of hard sometimes the way we do it, and then whenever you have like a backup story, because I'm going to say this right off the top. The backup's fun, and I love the art in it because Ty Templeton is amazing, but it disrupts the flow of the book. I would rather have had this just be 20 pages or be 40 pages of the same story and continued on a little more. I didn't see the need for this backup at all.
Yeah, I gotta say, personally, I've never been that, I don't know how you feel about them, but I've never been a big fan of backup stories. I mean,
yeah, sometimes they just really screw up the flow. Like, right. I would say this. Sometimes they work, and I can't think of a great example off the top of my head, but sometimes...
I can't remember what book it came with, but the Deadpool Back in Black.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Where they... Originally, it was like, a 5-6 issue backup story.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they did release it as just one trade.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what book it was a backup story for.
Yeah, I don't know either. But sometimes the main story has enough like finality, like at the end, where it makes sense. Like it wraps up enough, and then you can tell like another little fun story or whatever. I would say like when they're end on cliffhangers, like I just don't want it. I'm like, why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Just come out with another book. But I think, I don't want to be harsh on it for that. So I would say let's take them separate. We could probably even leave out Balloonacy if you want and just talk about the main story here. Whatever you feel comfortable with. But
I don't mind talking about both. Actually, not only am I not a fan of backup stories to begin with,
yes,
but, and again, I don't know how you feel, but a lot of backup stories are like, meh, okay, didn't need them. But actually, I enjoyed this backup story.
I did too. I thought it was cool.
I did, yeah, exactly. And that might have been a product of the fact that Dan Slott wrote both the main and the backup story.
Definitely.
And it wasn't a separate writer, so you basically got the same quality of writing, which I guess, helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for the story beats, I guess I'll just take them separate then.
Yeah.
So for Solo Run, I liked it a lot. It moved forward pretty well. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know. I feel like a good solid like 80s or 90s like Spider-Man story, like a good one. I mean, because there were bad ones in there too, but like, it just flowed that way. It was pretty densely packed, but at the same time, we started in a battle. We had like that conflict that we needed resolved. We went to like a little bit of origin story. We went back to a battle. I think it worked well. I liked it.
See, and I gotta say, sorry, I had a hair in my mouth.
Well,
and this was probably definitely a product of Dan Slott writing it, because Dan Slott definitely knows his spider characters.
Sure.
I have to say, but there have been instances where certain books, they do the modern what's going on in the present, and then they cut to the how that character came to be, and sometimes just if the writing isn't really good for the segueing, then it just doesn't work.
I'm with you on that. I do agree with you there, because first and foremost, I liked it, and like you said, Dan Slott, he's a great writer. Like, he knows how to block his book correctly and everything. It would have been nice to kind of flash back a little, or like throw something up there, and say, I don't know when the experimentation was supposed to have taken place.
You mean like a 5 years earlier?
Yeah, something like that. Just because it was like, obviously it was
just to let the reader know, okay, it's going back in time.
Yes, yeah,
right.
I mean, it was implied, like we know obviously that it was going back in time,
but sometimes it's nice to have that actual visual clue.
Yeah, because you don't want us to be confused. You don't want us to say, wait a second, he was just fighting this elephant thing, and now all of a sudden he's in a lab. What happened? I would say that's the only. It's not even a problem, but that was the only thing that kind of stuck out a little weird to me.
Just a minor issue.
Yeah, definitely. So I agree with you there. Okay. And then if we talk about the beats of, I'm only going to spend 30 seconds on the backup story. I don't spend too much time on it, but if we talk about the beats of Balloonacy, it's just a fun little tip in Spider-Boy's world.
I mean,
it's cool they brought Squirrel Girl into it.
And you have a villain that releases toxic gas through balloons. I mean, come on. You can't be deadly serious in a story where your villain releases gas from balloons.
Yeah, I like that. I think I like the villain a lot, because he's reminding me of one of those old school Batman villains. Or something.
like the Adam West, the Adam West Batman villains.
Yeah, just somebody who he's in the rogues gallery, but he's whatever.
Like when Penguin wasn't near serious, and the Joker wasn't as serious.
Yeah, like you punch him in the face, and then he gets locked up, and then maybe comes up again later for no apparent reason, whatever. Right. Yeah, I like that. That was fun. So the narrative of the book, the narrative works for me. I thought it was firing on all cylinders. It worked fine. There was, I don't know if I felt like maybe it was a tiny. I mean, if I have to critique it, this isn't like a dig on it, but if I have to critique it, which is what we're here to do, I would say, moving over to dialogue, there was too much dialogue for me. I wanted to be able to focus on the art a little bit more, because I like the art. The art's really good.
The only critique I have with the narrative, and I see exactly why they went this route. Yeah, because of the character of Spider-Boy. I mean, he's basically like a spider vampire human hybrid. So it's gonna lend itself this way, but I don't know, the whole there's been so many Spider people and Spider-Man books over the years. Yeah, the whole is, Spider-Man a monster? Is he a freak? All that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say it's totally wearing thin.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, telling an origin story in movies.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you don't necessarily need that. I mean, again, I see why they went that. I see why Dan Slott went that route, but personally, I didn't need it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm okay with it. I mean, he's got to stand apart from Spider-Man.
Right.
There has to be, and I think also once we get like more into the reason of why he exists, and really the reason of why he's been there the whole time, but people don't know why, and all of that. That'll be interesting. I think that this is like a very campy kind of like fun story right now, but it's Dan Slott, so I trust him at the same time. And like he's gonna pull the rug out from underneath us and be like, we're gonna be like, oh shit! Like I feel that's what I feel like.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad Dan Slott's writing on it.
Yes.
Or else, reading this first issue, I was afraid, are they just gonna turn Spider-Boy into a comedic relief character?
Yeah. Yeah, they could definitely go that route, but not with Dan Slott.
Not with Dan Slott writing.
And they have plans. I mean, there's obviously plans for this character, obviously. So what about the world building? Look, I'm just gonna say this world is built up as it can be already. We're in Spider-Man's world, so and Dan Slott's the one building it. So no, it's 110% already.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're in Spider-Man's New York.
Yeah.
So,
we know it very, very well.
Right,
and then on top of that, Dan Slott knows it better than Spider-Man does. So
plus, I mean, I can't believe people would still want to buy property there.
Yeah, me either. But hey, they do. They do. Just like they want to buy it here for no apparent reason. They're like, why?
And it's New York, so you'd have to think it's expensive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, sure.
And the insurance rates have to be through the roof at this point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got like elephant rhino hybrids, like breaking everything, and yeah.
Right, and I mean, look how many heroes and villains are based in New York.
Oh yeah, all of them. Well, moving over to the art and moving over to Paco Medina, is that what I said his name was?
Medina.
Medina? Okay. Yes. Paco Medina? Yes, Medina. Yes. Of course, on this first story titled Solo Run. So how about the characters? How about Bailey? How about Christina, Spider-Man, Spider-Boy, Madam M? Wonderful, top-notch. I love all of the character design. I think the art is great. I love, we've already talked about Villains of the Week, how much we both like those. I love Gutterball. I love Hell If I Know. Really, really cool. Top notch. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I do like, I do like how they big time differentiate Spider-Man suit from Spider-Boy's suit, while at the same time keeping those core colors so they're versions of the same character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that too. I also like excuse me I have to get on there. I also, moving over to the backup story, the Balloonacy, Ty Templeton, phenomenal, really, really good depictions of everything he's going for there. Love the Balloon Man, love Squirrel Girl, everything. Outstanding. So how about the backgrounds, Bob? I don't know, the backgrounds look good. I mean, they're completely fleshed out. We've got New York everywhere. We've got I don't even know what else to say. The backgrounds are good. There's so much going on in the dialogue in most of it that I don't feel like you can like pack it too full of background material. Like it does kind of have to take a back seat and be a background, but I feel like it works in that
yeah,
way.
and going to you turned the page, but going back, what is it? The first 2-3 pages.
Yeah,
I love what he does with the action panels.
Oh yeah, when he's fighting Gutterball here and he's tossing all those bowling pins and stuff around. Yeah, really great, really good stuff.
And I mean, you get the motion blur lines from the action, and of course you get the onomatopoeia when he's fighting Gutterball. Plus, I mean, you have Gutterball who's a guy with a bowling ball for his head.
Yeah, I'm really loving that. I think that is super, super cool.
And I must ask you.
Yes.
What did you think about the puns?
Oh, I love them. Yeah, they were great. He's definitely Spider-Man's apprentice, and he's trying hard
big time
to get all those quips.
Not quite there yet.
No, definitely
not quite there yet.
Not even close, but he's trying. He is definitely trying. Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's really cool. So how about the locations? I mean, I don't even see any need to spend any time on this.
The locations are kind of like the world building.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, you know them by now.
Yes.
I mean, the only thing you may get different is the bowling alley.
Yep. Yeah, that's about it. But just a little pocket there in New York, in Marvel's New York.
and then you get Madame Monstrosity's laboratory.
The farm, yeah. Yeah, love it. Okay, so the last thing to talk about then is colors. The colorist on Solo Run is Eric something. I don't know. I don't know. No clue. Bob, if you want to try, it's the third dude right there, Eric something. Bob is reading.
Eric That's kind of hard to say. Let me see it again. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Eric Arcaniga.
Okay, well, sure. I think he's great on colors here. They look good.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. Going back to Spider Boy suit, I love how the colors pop.
Yeah, likewise. And Gutterball's head and everything looks really cool. The colorist for Balloonacy is D something or another.
D Cuniff.
Okay. Cuniff then. Yeah. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry, Dan, but that's what it looked like for me. You're good. I like the colors here as well. Like it really fits. Like I would say this. Like Ty Templeton is like to me, and this is not a dig on him because I love his artwork. He's great, but he's like a Mike Allred light to me. Like he's almost doing pop art.
Yeah,
it's just like not quite there. But yeah, the colors work really, really well. They're solid.
I mean, in the in the main story, what did you say? It was Solo Run.
Mm-hmm. Solo Run.
Of course, and this isn't a dig by any means. Mm-hmm. But it's the more serious story. Yep. So I mean, you do get those colors that don't. Totally pop. Yep. But I mean they're not muted by any means. No. But then you get the backup story of Balloonacy where the colors are where the brightness is turned up and they're very vivid. But it fits the story because that's supposed to be the quote sillier of the two. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. I think it works really well. So I'm gonna say this. Well, let me ask you first before I say my thing. The question of the podcast. You recommend issue number 2 to our listeners?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. I do. Yeah. So that's a win from Bob. I'm gonna say this, and this is like a little soapboxy. So sit back, grab a snack, I guess. But Bob's got his water there. A lot of people on the internet, because I always try to look before we talk about a book and see what other information is out there, get other perspectives and everything. Mm-hmm. There's not really any reviews up online as of right now. I mean, there are written reviews, but not really video or podcast or anything like that. But this is another one of those things that the general community is complaining about. So when I say that, I mean why we didn't need this, who asked for this, who wants a Spider-Boy solo series, blah, 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 and so on and so on. And with that, I'll say this. And please, no, I won't say that because I'm not going to try to alienate anybody. But screw you, who asks for anything? We get what we're given, for one. And if you don't like something, then you don't have to buy it. Right. If you're not interested in it, then don't pick it up. But this reads like for somebody like me who grew up on Spider-Man, I love this. It's like reading Spider-Man for the same reason that I love Miss Marvel. You will never, I will never listen to anybody complain about Kamala Khan because I'm like, if you don't like Kamala Khan, I'm sorry, you don't like Spider-Man. Like, like they are wonderful stories. Like it reads just like Spider-Man. It's a wonderful, very, very balanced character with a lot of depth to it and everything. And I'm the same. Like I don't like Bailey. When I look at Bailey right off the get-go, I'm like, okay, it's like an annoying little kid. But like he has so much depth to him. Like there's so much more besides that. Like when he's in that Spider-Boy suit, and then whatever he's got going on here, and all the reveals that we're getting and everything. Like it doesn't matter who asked for it. It's out there. It sells. Whatever. Just don't pick it up if you're not interested.
Enjoy it because it's there.
Yeah, exactly. So I hate that because I feel like it's such a lazy complaint. If you have a critique of something, then by all means, I'd love to hear it. Sure. Tell me why, you read it and you don't think that it's good because of this and this, but not who asked for it. That's lazy. Like, if you didn't ask for it, then cool. You didn't ask for it, so take it, sit down.
No, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I don't want to even, make this a talking point.
Yeah.
I hate even doing this. But I just remember the whole, I don't like Miss Marvel because she's a Muslim female superhero. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's like, get out of your own ass, and like, what does that mean? You can only read things that you can directly relate to that directly reflect your own life. Well, then, you're going to have a boring time consuming media and entertainment.
And, I'm sorry, but, with comics, if you don't like that, then just read what you do like.
Yeah, exactly. Look, there's plenty of white male Batman stories out there for you to read if that's what you want. Sure, go ahead. And really... again, not to go too deep into a rabbit hole about it. I don't want to alienate people, but everyone complains that there's too much diversity, that they're trying to, make this into a female version of this character and blah, blah, blah. Well, look, right here, you have none of that. This is another white male new character. So you can't complain about that. So what are you complaining about? Like, just...
Complain to complain.
Yeah, exactly. But no, this is... and, to leave all that on the back burner as far as me recommending it, yes, absolutely. I love Spider-Man. I love whenever I read a book and it feels like I'm reading Spider-Man because, in all honesty, people have their favorites. They have the things that they like, the things they don't like, and all of that. When it comes to superhero comics, that is what I like. I like Spider-Man. I like the way that format works. It's my favorite thing of all time. I think that they... like I said, really cracked it with Miss Marvel, and I think that they're cracking it here. So I love it. I will absolutely read issue number 2. I'm excited to see what happens with it. I absolutely recommend this to everybody.
You heard it here. Dan is a fan of spider characters in general.
Yes, definitely. Surprise! With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And Bob, then we're going to treat them to the interview that I did just the other day with Michael Dialynas. I'm sure I butchered his name there too, but yeah, really, really cool interview. So check that out and hello and welcome back to the all new, all different #1 comics podcast. We are here with a very special creator interview. Of course, on the show today, we have a amazing creator, somebody who has created this brand new book with this brand new amazing world, but also beyond creating it, also illustrated the entire thing, colored and lettered. Really, really big achievement here. Whenever you guys get your hands on this book, you're going to be very surprised that this was all done by a single person, which just blows my mind. But we have Michael Dialynas. I knew I would completely butcher it. Dialynas. and still. Oh, well, it was to be expected. Michael, if you don't mind, give us the proper pronunciation of your last name.
You just have to be confident. You have to like stick the landing. You didn't have to say, "Oh, sorry." Just say Michael Dialynas.
There we go. Okay, well, wonderful, beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better myself, obviously. So, Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. How the hell are you? How's it over there in Greece? How's the weather?
The weather is still summer for some reason, and it's November now. I'm with the t-shirts and with shorts.
I mean, understood. I'm in Florida, so it's always summer here, eternally, sadly. But yeah.
No, we normally have normal weather. Like we should have rain. We should have autumn. It would be nice. Like
yes,
I just went out for a stroll this afternoon, and I came back sweating. I was like, this isn't right. This is November.
Can't even throw on a jacket or anything. Sad.
Nothing. And I want to wear my hoodies. I like my hoodies.
Exactly. Look, I love being able to cover up all this. So yeah, I'm with you. But amazing. But yeah, you're in Greece. Of course, as we talked off air here. I want to go over just a little bit of your background. If people don't know who you are, they're wrong. They do know who you are because you've worked on some amazing stuff. But if they don't have that name association for whatever reason, let's go over just a couple of your awards. I want to start with that. You've got a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Comic for The Woods, which you co-created with James Tynion for over at Boom Studios. And yeah, I told you I can't pronounce anything. Nothing. Yeah, we had Steve Fox on the show a while ago, and whenever we got into that, like he was like, okay, I'm gonna stop you before you even start, and here's how you say James Tynion's name, and he like broke it down for me, and I was like, cool. So James Tynion. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. So
just think about ties. He wears a tie. He doesn't wear a tie, but he should wear a tie always, and you can associate James with a tie.
Yeah, again, I can't pronounce anything, but that's very, very much to be expected here on the All New, All Different #1 Comics podcast. So when I do the interviews, I do them by myself. Normally I have a co-host, and he's great at pronouncing names. So I was like, you know what I think would be really cool is if I did the interviews alone. That way I could pronounce absolutely nothing correctly. So that's what I do. But yes, you and James, whatever, you guys created what's there. Yeah, that dude, you guys know who he is. You also have an award for excellence abroad from 2016 for Greek Comic Awards. Mm-hmm. You've got quite a few of those. You've got a best cover award for Trinkets for design and illustration in 2011.
I think I have 4 or 5. Actually, I think I have 6 Comic Greek awards. These are like prior my US market debut. Those are just my Greek work.
Okay, yeah. And Trinkets, I was looking that over a little bit on your site. It looks really, really cool. Has that ever been released over here? Like, is that released internationally at all?
Sadly, no, and I don't think I would like it to be because here it is. This is Trinkets for people who can't look at the stream. It's basically my all of my experimental. It's my experimental phase of when I was just starting off. Every story, it's like 12 short stories, and every different one has a different style to it.
Okay.
So for you who are watching, this is it's very glossy. It's the first one. It's about Death, who falls in love with a young lady, and they go out on a date. And then I had one about a boy who cried a wolf in the trenches of the First World War, and a bunch of wolves come in and eat everyone. And then I have this more realistic looking guy who's kind of a surreal comic. He's trying to fight a monster and steal the star that's inside its heart. Then I had a weird barbarian story, which is based on video games, and it's kind of more, flat-styled, very colorful.
Very colorful.
And then I had one about a guy who accidentally killed a cat, with his car, and then he's grief stricken. It's very camera's not good. It's very also Klimt, the artist. It's very Art Nouveau and painterly. And then I got one about a guy who swears a lot and he curses people with his swears. So he's like, he says to one guy in a bar, a red hot nail in your mouth, and then the guy just like has a big red hot nail stuck in his tongue.
Then it materializes it. Oh God, yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. And then I have one about a guy who works in a kiosk and he falls in love with a girl and he wants to save this girl from these hoodlums who are harassing her. And his kiosk turns into a mecha Pac-Man type thing, and the hoodlums die and they become ghosts, and it becomes like a big Pac-Man chase throughout the city.
So cool.
It's like all these weird little experimental stories just when I was like trying to find my own style. But which I tend to do with every story. Like I like to adapt to the story's needs.
Yep. Yeah,
so, yeah,
I mean,
that's probably there.
I love that though. I mean, obviously they love it over there too. Lots of awards for that one. So really, really outstanding stuff. Of course, we're going to talk about your new book in just a moment, but I want to go over just a little bit for those listening out there. You've worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course.
About 17 issues, I think.
Yes, big one for me. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Love that whole universe. That's so awesome that you're able to play in that sandbox, able to create some new characters that you're credited with and everything. So you're adding to the mythos over there. That's amazing. WYND is obviously a very big one. We talk about JT the fourth there as some people who can't say his last name say. So you guys worked on that together. Also the Woods.
We're still not finished with that one.
Yes. Lucid Dreaming. That's one book. I have some questions later about that one as well. Love that book. Love Max Bemis. Really, really cool. Your stuff on Gotham Academy, really your illustration on that, just awesome stuff. I love like the depths you get into there and just like that character design and everything that you're working with, just outstanding. So I think
that was my first maybe writing credit in the US market.
Okay.
On Gotham Academy, where I just did a short story for them.
Yeah. Really, really great stuff though. And I love Gotham Academy already. So yeah, just really, really cool stuff there. Now, again, with the pronunciations, we're going to get into your new book that's coming out here. ZAWA? Yes. ZAWA. Yeah. Is that how I pronounce it? Okay. Thank God. Yeah. So that's dropping ZAWA. Thank God. Well, you had the title in mind for me. You knew that I was going to be talking about this book, so you made it something that I could actually pronounce. So much appreciated there. But yeah, ZAWA is dropping in comic book shops next week. That is what, the 8th? Yes, November 8th, 2023. So you guys still have time out there. Of course, you've passed FOC, but you've still got time by the time this publishes to hit your local comic book shop up. Request it for your pool. You're absolutely going to want it on there. There's some great incentive covers as well. There's some variants. Scotty Young's doing a variant. So, everybody collects a lot of Scotty Young. So make sure you pick that up. But you've also done like a 1 in 25 incentive yourself for it.
No, I think my one is a 1 per store.
Oh, 1 per store. Oh, wow. Okay. Even cooler. So that's awesome. Yeah, but there's some great stuff out there. And like I said, you guys still have time to hit up your local comic book shop and request that in your pool. So make sure you guys do that. I actually got lucky enough to read an advanced copy. And yes, you are absolutely going to, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're going to have to very least want a few copies of this thing, one to keep in your bag and board and file away and one to read. At the very least 2 copies, but yeah, who am I? I'd pick up 10. So that's just my opinion. Really good stuff there. The first thing that I want to talk about whenever we get into ZAWA here is this was showcased in previews and was the book on the cover for the September issue. That's insane. That's amazing. How did that happen? How did you feel when you found that out? Did you know ahead of time? I don't know. Just go.
It's very surreal because I've never had that privilege before to have any of my previous works, on the cover of previews.
Yeah.
And at some point, I was like, when I pitched this, and then we were already like setting up dates when the first issue was going to come out. I was kind of like joking around with my friends, like, it'd be really cool if I had a cover of previews. I was just like really joking about it.
Yep.
And then like 2 weeks, I think, before previews came out, my editor said to me, just so you know, it's going to be on the cover. I was like, what? What do you mean it's going to be on the cover? And like in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's going to be the back cover. Like he just said the cover. The cover could mean anything. It could be the inside of the cover. It could it opens up. The previews catalog has flaps. So I was like thinking it could be anywhere. And then when I actually saw Diamond put out a post saying, Walking Dead and ZAWA on the cover. I'm like, what? What do you mean it's the actual cover of the book? So yeah, that was very surreal and very surprising. And the fact that it has all these details written on it, like James has a quote about my work and mentioning, all the things that I've done. I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot to have on a single, as my first creator-owned series that I've written. It's kind of a big push.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those covers. Of course, I remember walking into my local shop, and luckily my local shop, as I'm sure a lot of local shops do, have the previews out there for the customers to pick up, so we can be informed on what's coming out, and then request things on our pull list and all of that. But I just recall walking in this giant stack, and I'm talking massive stack, over there, and just this cover. And I mean, it's a cover that you can't walk past. The second that you see it, it's just, you're so intrigued by it. You have to know more. It's such an amazing cover with some amazing artwork on it. But I mean, I can't tell you, it was like a frenzy. Everybody was picking up a copy of this. So, I mean, your art is in everyone's hands, at this point, and everyone's just, kind of fighting for a copy of it. Yes, there it is. Just amazing with that nice pink previews font above it and everything. Really fits the tone.
I had to pick up one. I had to pick up one for myself.
Well, of course.
Thank you.
Why would you not?
I was like, I told my comic, my store that I go to, I was like, I'm going to need that copy. And he gave me the one that he has for the store. So it's mine now.
Yes.
And yeah, I was wondering, does CGC do previews?
Do reviews? I don't know. I mean, I hope so. That would be amazing, if they were able to encapsulate that and everything. And first preview of ZAWA there. But yeah,
basically.
Just an amazing cover again. For people who haven't seen it yet, absolutely make sure you go check that out online. You can check out, of course, it's on Midtown now. It's on League of Comic Geeks. Anywhere, you can just go to Michael's site if you want. There's information out there. Of course, very easy to find. But yeah, this cover, impossible to walk past. It's something so eye appealing, and every time anybody discusses it, they're just like, yeah, that book on the cover is a preview, or sorry, on the cover of preview is just amazing. So I had to know what that would be like. What about your elevator pitch to Boom for this series? Did you have one? Did you have to have one? I know you've already worked pretty closely with Boom in the past, so.
Well, pitching for Boom, like this whole little ordeal basically. this whole thing came around because me and James were going to take a break from WYND for a year. Because after drawing 750 pages of any book, you just get to a point where you're like, yeah, I'm going to need a little break. And also James is writing like 10 different series at the same time. So I think 3 years is the magic number, because when we stopped working together for a couple of years, it was After the Woods, and that was also around 800 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a sweet spot. Like once you get to that number, you need to have a break and do something else for a little bit.
Sure.
So my editor was like, so now that we're going to have a year off, maybe it's, that time that you should pitch us your own book. So he kind of pushed me into it because it's something that I've always wanted to do. But with James, it's kind of hard when every project you work on takes up like 4 or 5 years of your life. So it's very hard to like plan ahead. So when that time came, I was like, okay, let's try and figure out what I'm gonna do. It took me like 6 months to get this pitch together because I was also drawing up the end of WYND 3. So when I got to that point, I had to do like the whole shebang, the whole like I am presenting a project to Boom, even though I'm working with them for 10 years. So I have to do this like normally, do the pitch, do the sketches, get everything wrapped up. So the initial conversation started when I gave my editor a few sketches of the protagonist ZAWA, but this was before she was ZAWA. This was kind of like very early stages before I even had a concrete script in mind. And he was like, "Okay, this is great. I already love her. Like just based on the design of the character, she's like, we're good. Like just now all you have to do is, land the story, and I think we're good to go." So I did the whole the pitching process, which was like I think it was a 6-page document I gave to them. And my elevator pitch basically for this was, what if Guillermo del Toro did a Miyazaki story?
Wow.
I think that's kind of like that was the easy way in. Like it's going to be dark, it's going to be kind of grim, but very wholesome, and talk about food and climate crisis, basically.
Yeah, look, that definitely ties into some of the questions I have coming up as well, of course. But yeah, like you said, I like how you talked about that. You came up with that character design and kind of pitched that, showed it to your editor and everything. And again, I feel like that's what's really grabbing people here is that cover, that previews cover, that cover of ZAWA 1, just a huge spectacle there for your eyes. It's a very chaotic but very centered piece of work that works very, very well, and it's just so intriguing. It's something that you can't pass by. You have to know more. You have to know what's going on. So you really nailed it with that cover there. I mean, we look at comic book covers. I'm somebody who has a large pull list. I pick up 40 to 50 comics a week, and you always want to make sure that the cover is something that's going to catch somebody's eye. A lot of people talk about how every comic is somebody's first comic, every day is somebody's first trip to the comic book store, all of those things. And, a lot of times, you've got a Batman, a Spider-Man book, things that people can associate with. But then whenever it's creator owned, when it's an indie book, when it's something that doesn't have name or character recognition, you've really got to sell that cover. That really is what it takes. And you have to sell that, if your cover is based on character design or whatever, you've got to sell that. This just has all of the perfect elements there, the popping colors, the character design, the everything that's going on with that piece of art. So yeah, I can absolutely imagine, if you showed that character design to your editor or Boom, they were like, all right, please just nail this story. We got you.
And especially because I've been working with Eric, who's my editor at Boom. We've done both. He was both my editor on Woods and on WYND. So I've dealt with Eric for a decade, and I know how hard he pushes when it comes to the first cover of a book. Like whenever it's the issue 1 cover, he's going to drive me insane. So I don't know how many concepts I did for the first cover until we landed on this design. It was, it drove me insane. Like it really did. Every other cover has been easy breezy. Like, this is the design I want to do. He's like, cool, go for it. But the first issue, nightmare every time. But I'm super glad that it actually worked, because I was at a convention last week, or was it the week before, in Belgium, and it was basically the first show I was at that I had ZAWA on the table. Not issues. I just had a big print, and I had a lot of postcards I was giving out to people. And I was very glad to see that how many young teenagers stopped at my table just to see what ZAWA was. And I got a lot of young. This is me. I sound like an old man. A lot of
you young whippersnappers out there coming by the table.
Yeah, a lot of like 15-year-olds like just stopping and just saying, "Oh, cool, what is this?" And they loved it so much that they got a print, and I gave them all the details, and they're like, "We're going to get it when it comes out in 2 weeks."
Oh yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
so I was very glad to see that the cover actually did the job it needs to do.
Yeah, it definitely does, and as I can attest to here, the interiors do as well, and the story does. Everything here, firing on all cylinders. This book is awesome. I'm not gonna obviously spoil anything here. I mean, I have some questions that are related to the story, but nothing to spoil. But yeah, this is again firing on all cylinders. This is something that, I mean, if you guys haven't emailed, called, texted, walked over to your local comic book shop yet, for the love of God, go do it now, because this is, I mean, I'll be very, very surprised if just based on the cover alone, this does not sell out, next week whenever it hits shops. Like there's no way your local shop's going to have any sitting around.
I'm dreading next week, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is a very big moment in my life to have a written and drawn series in the US, because everything else I've done, which is 100% me, has always just been here in Greece.
Yes,
this is my first big step out of not working with James, not working on Turtles. This is my first big exposure, and I'm kind of dreading it. Like I want to hear what everyone has to say, but I kind of don't want to hear what everyone has to say, because I'm still in the process of finishing the book.
Yes. Well,
so I don't want it to like really influence me.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. This is definitely going to do well. Mark my words here. I see this doing very well. There's in this book particular, I want to, I had a question up top, but I want to circle back around to that. But there's like a whole lot of world building going on here, like a whole lot of world building. You've got something really cool that I have never seen before. You get vibes of like, post-apocalyptic world, dystopia. And then it's like also this big, warm, friendly city. I have no idea how the hell you pulled that off, because all of those things kind of contradict one another. So it's insane to me, but it seems like the city or town or whatever, Messa's Boon, is that?
Yeah,
that what I'm saying? Okay. Yes,
Mesa means mountain, and Boon is bounty, so it's the mountain's bounty.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it seems like Messa's Boon is as much of a character in this issue as any of the other characters that we get to know throughout this first issue, and I assume the whole series. But how did you create this world? I mean, I know that's a big question. It's not like I expect you to, be able to break that down, but was this something that had been brewing for a while? Is this something that you just kind of sat down and created? And again, it's such an expansive, world with all these different corners and elements to explore. So how did it come about? What's your inspiration? You go.
It's kind of like I have this theory, though, basically how I tackle these kind of creator-owned books. Like I did this a lot with WYND, where James would give me the elements of the story that we needed to get across, and because he doesn't use captions or anything, it's all exposition through characters. Every time I showed the setting of each story, I had to get across, all the elements of why the world is the way it is. So I had a lot of experience doing that for 3 years with WYND, and with this story, I didn't know where the story was gonna be based until I figured out what the story was. So once I nailed down what kind of story I was telling and the elements of capitalism and nature that is at war in the story, that's when I got to the point where I was like, okay, now that I know what the elements are, let's try and build it out and get across the darkness of the city, but also the bright colors of propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of propaganda in this. There's a lot of adverts because the whole reason for Mrs. Boone to existing is basically to what's the word I'm looking for? It's basically a factory. It's basically a city full of workers that work at a factory.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole place is a big advert for this one product. So that was kind of I was trying to get across like a little bit of Times Square, a little bit of an overgrown village that is just like what's the word I'm looking for? It grew too fast. Like there are still elements of people living normal lives in a seaside city, but because the mayor of the city wanted to, put forward this giant empire, that it's just like shut up and just food adverts everywhere. So yeah, that's the kind of it's. I'm not explaining this well because this is why I'm mainly an artist. I'm very bad at explaining stuff, but yeah, I just wanted that fake feeling of happiness to get across. Like there's lots of colors, and especially when you first see the city, it's at nighttime and they're having a festival and it's like bright colors everywhere. Everyone's cheering, being happy, but this is just a moment in their lives because once this festival is over, they're just going to go back to working at the factory, pushing all these products.
Yeah, and you can really see some of that through the story here. It's very apparent that people are excited. There's stuff going on, like you said. There's like a big festival or parade or whatever, going on, and there's a lot of I don't know, patriotism is not the right word, but something for the city or whatever. There, like a lot of pride, whether that's forced or whether they're forced into a corner and have to have that facade up for that. But it's definitely like a little bit of a peek behind the curtain too. I think of something like, I don't know, you go back to some TV shows like Twin Peaks or something where it seems so idyllic and everything's fine and everything. And then you pull back the curtain just a tiny bit and there's like obviously a lot more sinister things going on and stuff. And I feel like this has certain themes of something like that. But it's done in a way, again, you guys are going to have to read this book. You're going to be very excited when you read it because there's just so many layers to it that like Michael said, you said you're not great at explaining things. I mean, I doubt that, but there's so much here. It's so densely packed that to explain it would do like a disservice to the book. It's not something explainable in a couple of sentences or a conversation. There's so much going on here, especially through the art, especially through what you're saying in the book, the commentary that you're making, and everything through this art. It's just not really something that can be conveyed through words. So yeah, I completely agree with you there.
This is why I have 5 issues to tell the story that I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, and you're gonna need all 5. But
there's one part of the story I'm not 100% sure if it comes across in the first issue. There's a lot of merchandising religion.
Okay.
Because the whole city and the thing that they celebrate is the sleeping guardian.
Yes.
And the protector of the mountain. That's their deity, that's their god. And the food festival has been, the mayor has capitalized the food festival into a way to push more product. So everything has ZAWA on it. The ZAWA themed cookies and ZAWA themed merch and a big ZAWA statue in the middle of the city. And it's all about the Guardian, but it's not about the Guardian. It's about pushing the food.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of monetizing religion also in the story.
Yeah, again, just so densely packed. I mean, you open this book up and I don't know if you're like me when you read comics, or we all consume media in various ways or whatever, but I love to read everything at the very least twice. I can never form an opinion or soak anything in until I read it through twice. So my first read through of a comic, I focus on dialogue. I'll read dialogue, the narrative, all of that. I'm of course looking at the artwork and everything as I go along, but my second read is very detail oriented. I really like to get into the art. I really like to see what's going on, every corner and everything there. And I have read this I'm not going to lie, I've read this 4 times already, and I just read it for the first time this morning. So so that's all today. Yeah. And I mean, every single time I read it, there's more there. There's a lot more to unpack. There's a lot more going on than what's happening in the surface. You first crack the book open or PDF, like the way that I read it, and it's just, it's this extravagant and very artistic take, very stylized in its art and everything. And the narrative seems, it seems like the story you're telling is very, very easy to get across. I'm just reading. It's very easy to consume. Then that second time, and I'm really looking at the artwork and I'm like really digging into it. And then I wanted to go back a third time and I'm just like, okay, you've got some elements in here to the story that weren't very apparent the first go around, that now I'm digging into and so on. So this is, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you could read this an endless amount of times and continue to get something different out of it, continue to get more out of it. Again, it is so densely packed with ideas and information and philosophy and all of that. So I think this is a really big accomplishment. I talked to a lot of comic book creators here on the show. We break down, if you didn't know, the point of this podcast is to break down first issues only, and let our readers know if they should add it to their pull list or move on to the second issue or whatever. So we do a lot of first issues. We do indie first issues, we do big 2, whatever, we do everything, run the whole gamut. And to say that this is, you could really take this and really, kind of study it and unpack it. Not a lot of books are out on the shelf doing this. There's not to say that any of them are bad. There's a lot of great comics out there. I love a lot, but there's not very many people that I can think of that are telling this much in a single issue. There's just a lot happening here, and it's so, I don't want that to scare anybody either. It's so easy to digest at the same time. So I think just a really big accomplishment.
This is a lot, because the longest story I've ever written prior to this was 30 pages.
Okay.
So now that I'm tackling 140, which is kind of what the final number is going to be on the book, I didn't know I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, I was scared to, like, when I did the pitch, it was I had a minimum. They said it had to be 4 issues. I was like, okay, 4 issues. Can I do 4 issues? Do I have 82, 88 pages? No. Yeah, do I have like roughly 80 pages in me? And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to need like 100, at least 100. So then they gave me like the breakdown. Yeah, they gave me the breakdown of the issues, and they're like, okay, it's going to be 24 pages each one. So I was like, okay, so 5 issues times 24. Okay, that's over 100. And then I stole the inside cover, because instead of putting just a graphic, I used that as part of the artwork. So the first page you open up is a splash page. So I did that on every issue just to get 25 pages out of every issue. And now that I'm on the last 3 issues, I begged Boom to give me more. So they gave me 28. So that 28 plus the inside of the issue is 29. So the last 3 issues are going to be 29 pages.
Amazing.
So yeah, I didn't realize I had this much story to tell when I first, did the pitch. Like, I didn't even know I could write 100 pages. But now I'm in the groove. Now I wish I had 200.
Exactly. You're gonna make it, to whenever people start reading it, they're gonna be like, "This is effortless." There's, God, he had this story in his head the whole time, and it just came out. Now, like you talked about before, with the food and the capitalism and all of that, there's a lot of food going on in this book. In this first issue, there's a lot of food, and I assume that carries over. But I just want to talk about a couple of things. It's not really spoiling anything, I don't believe, but we have like a burger vending machine type of ordeal. We have the mom of some of the main characters in this book is working on an energy drink for the mayor. The Bandit is created something called Guardian cookies. So there's again like a big food element to this book. There's a lot of food going on, and I assume that carries over as well. There's a book that just recently came out. I think we're on issue number 2 right now, called Rare Flavors. Oh yeah, look at that. Jeez. Just some amazing art there. Yeah, a lot of food. Yeah, and look, I wanted to ask, I'd be asking Rom V if he was here as well, because he produced the book Rare Flavors that just recently came out. He's actually doing, his book is food focused. He's got recipes in the book. It's very crazy and off the wall if you haven't checked it out. Really cool book. Do you ever expect, I know you're not there yet, but once the book comes out, I mean, the sky's the limit in my opinion, but do you ever expect any tie-in with this kind of thing? Can you bring any of this food to the to the general public? Is there, is I don't know. Can you create some Guardian cookies and package them out there? You got any ideas for anything like that?
Well, the next time I have a con here in Greece, I might as well do that. It would be easier to have make some cookies. We wanted to do recipes also in this in ZAWA, but we're going to hold on to those for the collection.
Very cool.
Like, there was too much going on. There's a lot of juggling going on here. Like doing drawing, writing, and lettering a book means I have 3 issues open at the same time. So I'm lettering one, I'm drawing one, and I'm writing the next one.
What a task! So, I can't even imagine.
I'm spent. I cannot wait until I'm done in like 3 months, so I can take a break.
Yeah, I can't imagine it at all.
So once we're done with that, the goal is to like get some of the recipes from the book and actually make, how they will be made and put them into the collection.
That is so cool. That is, I couldn't even have hoped for something that cool. So that's really awesome to hear.
But most of the things I have in this are simple to make. They're not nothing's too weird or complicated. It's basically baked goods or egg based recipes. The second one has an omelet. The third one doesn't have that much food, but I do mention a recipe with hot cocoa. Okay. So it's more like easy, cozy food that I'm aiming for. Heartfelt, hearty food. Like especially the omelet. It's a good start for the day. A good nice omelet with potatoes in it. So basically, awesome. all the food that I've been using in the book up until now has been recipes that I grew up with. Like a chip omelet is something that my dad used to make. The hot cocoa recipe is something my grandmother used to make for me and my cousins whenever we would see her. So I'm using like these kind of elements, nice, something to give our protagonist the power.
Yep. And again, so I hate to keep circling around and saying this, I feel like a broken record, but it's so densely packed. There's so much happening. There's so many ideas. And then again, it's like you peel back the layers, and on top of that, you're incorporating food in a way where, you wouldn't know that, these are things based in your real life, that are come onto the page here. And then, of course, like you said, maybe there'd be a collected edition with some supplemental material and some of those recipes in there, and just so much to unpack with this world. I don't want to spoil anything from the book, so I'm going to leave out what happens towards the end, of course, but I
wish we could speak more about that.
yes. I love this cliffhanger. Of course, it is a comic book, so we would expect a cliffhangery ending, but I cannot wait to read this next issue. What this leaves off on is insane. And I want to ask you about that. Now, whenever you're scripting your book, because of course you've scripted this, you've written it, you illustrate, letter, color, every single thing is on you here. So when you first envisioned this story and started at the beginning and then thought of your ending and all of that, did you have it broken down into those 5 issues? Did you have your cliffhangers where you wanted them at the end of each issue? Was that something that you had to kind of work your way through? How did that process work for you?
I'm still working through that process. When I did the pitch, I did have a sort of skeleton to the story. Skeleton, is that the word? Something. Yep. That's the way we call it in Greek. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I would have my first issue, which would be the big establishing issue of the world and the main characters, but I didn't really have ZAWA in the first issue, which is very bad. Like I had her literally in like the last 2 pages of the issue. Like she was not going to be in the first. Like the whole story was going to be about the world and when we meet her. So my editor like kind of pushed me into actually getting more pages with her in it, which makes sense. But in my mind, I was like, this is the way the story needs to pan out, and you can only do so much with 25 pages. So I had everything broken down, but as I'm going through the story again, as I'm creating it, a lot of things are changing. So I'm trying to keep strong cliffhangers, but I don't want them to be a forced cliffhanger for an issue. So when someone reads the book, I don't want them to feel that, oh, this is when the issue ended and this is when the next issue started. Like I'm trying to get it as seamless as possible, so when the collection comes out, it reads as a 140-page story and not as 5 issues. Hopefully. But that's my goal.
And that's something that we don't think about, or at least I personally don't think about a lot as a reader. These have to work in individual issues, and they have to be enough to pull the reader in to have them want to check out issue number 2 and all of that, and the subsequent issues that follow. But they also have to read together whenever they're compiled in a trade or something. There's a lot of thought and work that has to go into this. This is not, something easily done. I can imagine. Like you said, it's kind of evolving as time goes. You work more through that process, and maybe you understand it more or whatever. But I just like the listeners to, imagine that for a second. You've got to tell this story, and you have to make it work in a single issue. You have to make it appealing enough for people to want to pick up the next issue. You've got to make sure that it reads well together in a trade. I can't imagine. Just seems like a huge task there.
Well, look at it this way. We had a lot of these problems when we were doing WYND. Because when we started creating WYND, it was supposed to be a 3-book series.
Yep.
But when the pandemic hit and most of the publishers stopped shipping books, and I had just finished drawing the first book around then. So Boom said, is there a way we can cut this up into issues? Because the comic stores need help, and they need new comics. They needed a brand new issue 1 that we could provide, because I think DC Marvel weren't shipping anything.
Yep.
So we had to reverse engineer the first book of WYND into issues, which actually had me drawing an extra 40 pages on the book to actually flesh out and make it work as issues. And then when we got to the second book of WYND, we had the opposite problem, where we were making issues, and then when we got to the book, I had to make at least another 10 to 20 pages to make it seamless into a book again.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm hopefully I won't have this problem once I finish ZAWA, but I'm dreading that I might have to draw a few extra pages just to fill out the beginnings and ending of each issue to make it more seamless. I do feel like I might have to do that. But with WYND, it's been constant. Like every issue, every book, once I finish the 5 issues, I have to draw like an extra 10 to 20 pages.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Just again, such a huge task there. Well, I look, we're at, you know, over the 45-minute mark, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know
No, don't worry.
got your nice time change over there, and it's getting late and all of that. But
I'm coloring a cover right now, so don't worry.
Amazing. See, always multitasking, this guy. But I just have a few more questions for you, and this one's related to you know, lucid dreaming that I mentioned before. I can't remember exactly how old I was when I first became acquainted with the band Say Anything, but I think I was in my teens, maybe late teens. And that is the singer Max Bemis, or sorry, the author of that book is the singer of that band. So I was absolutely obsessed with them when they came out. And Max has done some very, very interesting things and writing
Mhm.
lyrics as well as writing comics and all of that. How was it like working with Max Bemis, and how did you and Max Bemis hook up for that project? Was it something either one of you sought out one another, or were you guys put together by the publisher, or how did that work?
No, it happened through Boom. It was just after I finished the Woods, and I was still doing a couple of issues on Turtles at that point. And my editor wanted me to do a fresh book, a new book, something, you know, something short, just for, you know, just after 800 pages of sci-fi fantasy, to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for again? Just to, you know, start fresh again, and, you know, just create something new. And he said, like, because Max had already done a couple of things at Boom, he told me, like, Max has a book. It's called Lucid Dreaming. It's a book that he wants to do for his daughter. I was like, cool, that sounds fun. And I was also at the point where I wanted to experiment again with my more cartoony style, because most people who read my recent work probably know me only for cartoony young adult stuff. But the Woods and especially the first, most of the Turtles that I've done have been leaning more to realistic characters and realistic settings. So I just wanted to get back into that cartoony world. And also, when I read the story, it had a lot of multiverse before it got to before the world got sick of multiverses.
Yep.
Yeah, Lucid Dreaming had a lot of multiverses and a lot of different styles that I could play around with. So it was a good opportunity to jump into something, and especially with that story, every issue was a different world. So I had a great opportunity to do, like, the first one's going to be sci-fi epic, a la, you know, Star Wars. The second one's going to be more Hunger Games, dystopian. The third one, God, I can't remember now. It's been a while. But yeah, like, I got to experiment with a lot of different things, and I got to play around with a lot of, you know, non-copyright characters. So it's basically just making a bunch of characters that are, you know, homages to something that you know. So it was a nice little, you know, another experiment for me to play around with. So once I did that, then I just jumped into WYND, because I had already done a good 100 pages of cartoon style. I was ready to jump into WYND after that.
Yeah, good point to move over to WYND. Yeah, that's and I love that book. That's a very cool book, very unique perspective and everything there. Really, really cool that you and Max were able to team up on that and really complement one another on that work. I love that book. Can I ask, you know, just again, going with a few generics here, like, what are some of your favorite comics?
Oh God.
Always.
Well, I grew up on Turtles, so that's been a big part of my life. And I'm a big Katsuhiro Otomo guy. I do love my Akira. Like I have the whole box set behind. I have it the
I see
Dark Horse
that.
edition
Yeah.
also. I got the box set and I was ready to sell off my Dark Horse editions until I realized that they are different books.
Oh wow!
Each the Dark Horse edition is flipped; it's mirrored for the American audience, and it has American sound effects.
Oh wow!
But the box set edition that Kodansha put out is the original Japanese, you know, left to right, right to left. Am I saying right? Yeah. Anyway, the original.
Yeah. Left to right.
Yeah, right to left. Yeah. It's the original way, and all the sound effects are in Japanese. So I was like, oh god, now I can't sell off my previous edition. I have to keep both. So, and recently I just picked up the first books of his previous works. Have you ever seen these?
No, I've not even dove into any of that at all.
I got these while I was in New York.
Oh wow!
These buggers. Yeah, each one of these books is like a big collection or a single story that he did prior to Akira.
Wow, yeah, and they're huge.
So so I've got the first 5 books here.
Wow.
and they're all in Japanese because I had no idea why the only work you can find of his in English is Akira. Like even his previous work to that, like he did one book before doing Akira, which was Domu, which is amazing if you haven't read it. It's a 1-book story, and it's basically Akira in a apartment building. It's the level of two telekinetic people who are fighting out in an apartment building. It's amazing, and that's only been released once from Dark Horse in 1996.
Jeez, yeah,
it's
so
never been
re-released.
Yeah, I realize now because I was like looking up, trying to find a copy to give a friend of mine, and I realized the edition that I have, which is from back then, because like $120 right now, because it never got released again.
Wow.
So yeah, I do like collecting my Akira stuff, and I have like a couple of pages from the Steve Olive colored pages that he did for the American edition.
Amazing.
So yeah, he's one of my big ones, and also anything that Guy Davis did, I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, so all of his BPRD run, the Marquee, his Fantastic Four story, that I think got an Eisner for that, and a little known story. He did a 4 or 5 issue series, a Batman series, based in the world of Gotham by Gaslight.
Okay.
But it's never been released in a trade.
Ah.
It's only available as issues.
Jeez.
And it's like it's a whole story with Batman and Edgar Allan Poe. It's called Batman Nevermore.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't exist. No one has read this because it came out then in issues and never got released as a trade. For some reason.
Maybe they'll do something more with it now that Elseworlds is coming back, and they're gonna do a Gotham by Gaslight 2 and all of that. Maybe it'll have some renewed interest.
I mean, they should. It shouldn't be off. It shouldn't be out of print. Like I don't understand why some books are just out of print, especially by big name creators.
Yeah, who knows? Insane how that works.
Yeah. So well, look, my go in.
No, please go ahead.
I'll just say my big guys are Katsuhiro Otomo, Guy Davis, and a lot of Turtles in my life. Yes,
and I mean, how awesome is it that somebody grows up on Turtles and is a big fan and then gets to work on it? That can't happen too often. So very, very cool. Halloween just passed. I don't know how big of a holiday it is in your neck of the woods. It's huge over here, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have any? I love to ask people this. Anything topical I can ask is my favorite. But do you have any horror movie recommendations or suggestions for the audience?
horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Five Nights at Freddy's last night. I wasn't a fan of that movie.
Yeah, that's what I've heard so far. Not great.
Yeah, it was not a good movie. It started out kind of interesting, but it just ended at some point without an end. One of my favorites would be The Devil's Backbone.
Okay.
Which is a Guillermo del Toro movie that is, I think he calls it the brother of Pan's Labyrinth, because they're both supernatural stories based in the Civil War. So if you haven't seen that, it's a great movie because it's about an orphanage and the ghost of a young boy. Which is very creepy.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I'm familiar with the title. I've never seen it, so I'm excited to check that out. I'll definitely be checking that out. Yeah, sounds great. Well, again, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We're hitting the hour mark here, so I won't keep you much longer. But please let everybody know where they can find you. Of course, like I said, ZAWA and the Belly of the Beast, issue number 1. Dropping next Wednesday in your local comic book shop, out from BOOM Studios. So that is November 8th, 2023. There's still so much time between now and next Wednesday. You have a whole week where you can be hitting up your local comic book shop. Hit up 4 local comic book shops and tell them all to reserve you a couple of copies of ZAWA number 1. This is something you're going to want to have on from the get-go there. You're not going to want to trade weight this one. You're going to want it in the single issues. That cliffhanger is insane. You're going to absolutely want to support Michael here, of course. That goes without saying. But I know you guys are all very, very familiar with the cover previews that ZAWA one was on. So this is something that's on everybody's list to pick up anyways. But again, it's very, very important that you guys hit up those local comic book shops. Let them know you want it. And let them know pre-FOC that you want issue number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Like, that's really, really important here. Make sure that those get ordered and added to your pull list ahead of FOC, so we make sure we keep up with the demand there. Because if this thing sells out, you're going to have a hell of a time on the secondary market picking up issues for $100 plus a piece. So make sure you get on the ground floor there. Michael, please let everybody know where they can find you. Anything additional you want to say, and I will shut up now and let you talk.
Well, as you're saying that about the FOC,
Yes.
One thing that we're doing with ZAWA, every issue has an FOC cover.
Wow.
Yes. So
that's awesome.
I think the FOC for issue 2 is next week. So at some point we'll be announcing who has done the FOC cover for that issue. And I've seen a couple of sketches for the FOC of number 3. Also, an amazing cover artist is doing those. And any support is welcome. This is my first series out there that I've written myself, which is a very big thing. And if you want to talk about collectors, this is my first series. That's it. This is going to be the first issue, the first time I've ever done a series. So it's going to be, only just for that reason alone, it's going to be, big. It's going to be big for me. I use mostly Instagram because I'm very bad at Twitter. Facebook is kind of weird. Blue Sky, I've tried my best. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is The Wooden King. And I try my best to upload as much as I can. It's very hard to post stuff and also draw at the same time, because everything cool that I draw is a spoiler, so I can't share it.
Fully understood.
So yeah, I try my best, and I do stories mostly to keep people updated on what's going on, and when something new is coming out.
Very cool. Well, Michael, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on, being so cool, being so responsive to emailing and all of that. Really, really awesome. I'm so excited for this book. I know our audience is too. And I just appreciate you taking time out of your day here to talk to us. So again, guys, that is ZAWA. issue number 1. Boom Studios is dropping next week. So you still have time. I cannot reiterate enough. Hit your local comic book shop up right now. Let them know you want ZAWA number 1 added to your pool. Just go ahead and let them know, hey, add the series to my pool list. Make sure that I've got a copy of each issue. And like Michael said, there's some awesome FOC issues or variant covers. Not really something we've seen done before, so you're going to want to hop up on that. Let your local comic book shop know you want a cover of each issue in there.
Also, the one per store is a mirror to the first issue, the first cover.
Oh, God.
The first cover is ZAWA sitting on a pile of garbage eating her lollipop. The mirror cover to that, which is the one per store, is her evil version.
Oh, wow.
So it's the same cover, just a different ZAWA on it.
Again, you're going to want that. Look, that's a one per store, guys. So you're going to be fighting everybody else, but make sure you let your local comic book shop know early that you're interested in those and try to get up on that. Hell, maybe you can send it over to Michael, get it autographed, and then send it in for your CGC grading. But or I guess CBCS if it's not verified. But Michael,
or
again,
the next time I'm in the States.
There you go. Yeah, go visit Michael. Shit, hop on a plane and go to Greece. But thank you so very much. I mean, it'll be worth it for the Michael alone, but then you get a cool vacation out of it too. So why not? But
and cool Mediterranean food.
Exactly. It doesn't get much better than that. Thank you so much, Michael. Much appreciated, and I hope you have a good one. Hello, and welcome back to the All Different Comics Podcast, episode number 43. Bob, hit him with the books that are coming out next week.
But before I do that, as always, just
it's
a
disclaimer time with Bob.
If these are just some of the books coming out next week, and if you want a more in-depth list, please consult elsewhere. So, starting from DC, we have Birds of Prey number 3. From Marvel, we have Gods number 2. Going back to Marvel, we have Star Wars High Republic number 1, the third phase of the High Republic series.
Yay.
Sticking with Marvel, we have What If Dark Tomb of Dracula number 1.
Can't wait for that one.
We have Amazing Spider-Man number 37. We have a new volume of Punisher where it will not be Frank Castle. It will be a brand new character. We have a new volume of Thanos with a new Illuminati. Going to DC, we have Poison Ivy number 16. Sticking with DC, we have a facsimile cover of All-Star Comics number 3. So if you can't afford All-Star Comics, get the facsimile. We have another facsimile, Wonder Woman number 1. From Image, we have Petrolhead number 1. Interesting name. From Scout Comics, we have Cations number 1. From Ahoy Comics, we have Captain Ginger, The Last Feeder number 1. Such an interesting title.
That it is.
We have from DC, rounding out the list, Superman 78, The Metal Curtain number 1.
The Metal Curtain, Bob. That is a Soviet name if I have ever heard one. And with that being said, Bob, let's figure out what we're going to be covering next week. Of course, we have our lovely wheelofnames.com here for all of your randomized wheel spinning needs. Not sponsored. We've got 3 books on the list, on the wheel. Let's spin it and see what happens. Bob, looks like next week we will be covering Nadia and the Nanobots, issue number 1 from Opus Comics. Again, a book that we definitely need to hit up our local comic book shop and make sure that they pull us to a copy.
Yes, and you need to do the same thing so you get a copy of this book.
Absolutely.
Because,
make sure so you guys can follow along at home. You ask for a copy from your local shops.
Not a whole lot of shops order a lot of Opus books.
Yeah, completely agreed. Well, Bob, that is the end of the show. It's been real and it's been fun, but it is time to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, make sure you check us out on all the socials. We're at Instagram at ANAD_1 Comics Podcast. We are on Twitter or X at ANADNO Comic Pod and on TikTok at ANAD1 Comics Pod. You can also check us out on YouTube under the Comic Book channel. This and every single week we like to give away a copy of the book that we were covering. This week being Spider-Boy issue number 1. All you have to do is use the hashtag #AllNewAllDifferentNation to be entered to win a copy. Thank you guys so much and we'll see you next time.